Hello, class, and welcome to Sir Searcher TV, where learning research is made easy. And we are now on our next topic for this week, and this is on the research title. Now, if you have noticed, a research title always gives us the best and I'm not sorry the best, but it gives us the first impression of a certain study or a research work. Upon seeing the research title right there and then, you will be able to establish the connection with the study. You will have that zing, or you'll have that feeling of interest and connection once you've seen and read the title. So therefore, we have to construct the title in such a way that you would be able to engage more people, more students, more researchers to read further in your study. Okay. And now, we must remember that doing a research title is not just only a one time activity, or it's not only a one time task. It's actually developmental. And what do we mean when we say developmental? Okay, so a research title is supposed to give us the first impression of your research, okay? And it establishes or is established the interest. So first impression, so therefore it establishes interest to your to the reader. Therefore, we have to construct a research title in such a way that it will be very engaging and something that creates connection. Okay. And also, I would like to emphasize that doing a research title is developmental. What do we mean by that? It means that at first we create like our working title. So we have a working title from the beginning of the research, and then eventually, as we go along or as we go through, the title can be changed or modified until such time that the study is completed. And once the study is completed, and once the study is already done perfectly, or has already undergone the process of proofreading, and each and every element are checked and validated, that's the time that we finalize our research title. So that means our first title may not be our final title, because it will still be polished and it will still be improved at the end of the research study. Okay, so now let's proceed to our guidelines. So, how do we create or formulate our research title? All right, so let's talk about our guidelines and the formulation. Okay, in the formulation of our research topic. Okay, here we go. So these are the important things that we have to consider when we are doing or when we are drafting or formulating our research topic. And the first one is we have to ensure, okay, the important elements. We have to ensure the important elements of our research title. And what are the important elements of a research title? Okay, so basically, I would really suggest that the number one thing that we have to make sure are your active variables. Okay, so your research title must contain your active variables. So what are these active variables? As what we have discussed in the previous lessons, we have our independent variable plus our dependent variable. So These variables or these active variables are non-negotiable. So in our title, it has to be there. Okay. Next, the other elements that I would suggest here are optional, okay, but in various institutions, or it really depends upon the school or the institution where you are affiliated or where you're studying at, because they have also like certain rules and guidelines in doing the title. But the letter A, the active variables, it is non-negotiable, meaning regardless of which university or which school you are, okay, you really have to put the active variables in your title. However, however, in some schools or in some institutions, they would also include the other elements, which are of course the setting or the locale of the study. Okay. Now, in doing so, in adding the place or the setting, or the local of the study, would also give us a better context of localization. Because if you're, let's say, if you're going to search that on the internet, which later we're going to talk about how important is creating the title, because it gives us a better web search. Okay, it will give us an idea. Okay, let's say you wanted to come up, or you wanted to look for local literature like in the Philippines, and if you're gonna type in there, let's say, hunger profile in the Philippines, scholarly articles on the hunger profile in the Philippines. So if you have that uh keyword, if you have those keywords, and if you're gonna look for that keywords, that will be very, very helpful, because it will help you come up with like a shorter or a more refined search. So setting our local of the study is also an important element. Then in some cases as well, we might include our respondents, because our respondents may sometimes serve as our independent variable, the source of the information, especially if it's just a descriptive research that you are conducting, or yeah, if you're doing. So the respondents would as well give us a more refined search later on, if you would have if another researcher will have a similar study just like you, just like yours, and if you mention that in your title, it would easily come out in the search results. And finally, you can also include your time or period when the study was conducted. Okay. Okay. So the time and period here, just like our setting and our respondent, may also narrow down your search for future researchers who will use your study as a reference. However, I would just like to emphasize as well that these three elements here may be omitted, okay? They may be omitted if the title is already too long or too lengthy, so we might remove that. And we might remove those things. But again, do not forget to always include your active variables in your study. Okay. Next guideline in formulating your research title is that you need to establish, or you need to avoid using abbreviations. Okay. So no abbreviations as much as possible. Well, if you cannot avoid using abbreviations, you might just mention that in your background of the study and or in your abstract. But the first time that you've mentioned your abbreviation, you should always spell out the full text of that abbreviation or of that acronym. Or if you have an acronym in the title, it's best if you will spell it out so that people who will see the title would be able to understand right away what do you mean when you say worm or WORM or something like that. So it has to be spelled out. Number two, okay. Number three, I mean, you have to use words that create positive impression. Yes. Positive impression is really important. Okay. So it should be a positive impression, but remember that your title should be neutral. Okay, so I would like to emphasize on this one. What do we mean when we say a title should be neutral? A neutral title means that you do not disclose the results of the study right away. Okay, so let's say you could just put there the level of anxiety among senior high school students with the onset of the new normal in distance learning, something like that. So you just place their level of anxiety, but you do not really state whether it is high level or low level. So we have to make sure that our research title is neutral and we do not disclose the information. Okay, next for our number four criteria or guideline, it should also be broad enough to include all aspects. So, not too specific, not too general, but broad enough to include all aspects of the study. Okay, this is nice, or this is quite um, a handy guideline because sometimes our tendency is to create a title that's very, very impressive, wherein if we kind of review it and look at it, it's very broad that the reader will not be able to figure out what really the study is or will not be able to establish direction of where the study is headed. So therefore it's advice that we have to make it broad enough but not too general and not too specific. Okay. Our number five guideline is we uh must avoid, okay, avoid terms such as analysis of, okay, okay, or a study of, all right. So these kinds of introductory phrases should be avoided because it's already understood that it is a study or an analysis of something. And aside from that, it makes our title lengthy. So remember that we have only a certain number of words, which we will learn in a while and we have to somehow adhere, okay, to that specific word limit in order for us to uh, avoid having chunky and really very long titles. Okay, next up, or number six, we have, okay, this is what I'm talking about. So remember that in making a research title, there should only be 15 substantive. Okay, is that right? Yeah, I think it's so. Substantial or substantive words. Okay, 15 substantive words. And what do we mean by 15 substantive words? Okay, I'll uh, explain further on that one. When we say 15 substantive words, we are referring only to 15 keywords, okay? So 15 keywords here. And keywords refer to, of course, our active variables and sometimes including other elements such as time, place, the one that we have mentioned a while ago. Okay, some other elements, and also when we count for these substantive words, we do not include your prepositions, your articles, okay, what else, your transitional words. No, we don't include that. So if we count the number of substantive words, we only count the keywords and the active variables. But for the prepositions, articles, okay, we do not include them in the counting of the 15 substantive words. Okay, And then also here, because we wanted to make it short or concise, remember that the next step is avoid a long detailed title. Okay, so no detailed, no detailed titles, because we don't want to overload our reader with so much information from the title itself. Remember, the title is like a teaser, or it somehow gives us a feeling of excitement or mystery, kung baga, no? So it hypes up the interest of your reader so that he or she will be able to read further on what the study is all about. So dapat may pabitin factor, okay, in some way or another. Next, number 8, aside from avoiding too long, just like with your analysis of a study of, so remove, okay, so remove assessment. Oh, there. Although sometimes I'm kind of guilty of this assessment or evaluation. I don't know. It just feels scholarly, diba? If we have that, if you assessment of an evaluation of something like that. But if we can avoid it and try to create a different kind of title, then that would be a very good example that we can use. Okay. Next, number 9. Mm. It's also important that we have to use correct grammar. Okay. I am not an English teacher, but correct grammar would also avoid the title from scrutiny or from criticisms. So it's best that we double check the construction of our title before the actual publishing. But anyway, for students who publish their works, or for even for professional researchers who will publish their works, they actually have an editor where they would subject their study into uh, grammar and technical consultation. Okay, and it's something that we can do to make our research even more correct. Okay, more technically sound and free from any grammar, you know, free from any grammar mistakes. Okay, next up, after correct grammar, all right. Okay, this one is very critical. Okay, and we follow the APA format of doing our research title, and follow also proper capitalization. Hmm. So what do we do here? Capitalization. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. So all nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs that appear between the first and last words of the title are also capitalized. So that's according to the APA format. So it's please review on your APA format with the creation of your, or the writing of your, the capitalization of your titles. But again, if we wanted to use the default format for the capitalization, we use the APA, okay, which means all nouns, pronouns, adverbs, adjectives, and verbs, adjectives, and adverbs that appear between the first and last words of the title are also capitalized. So, except for your articles, for your preposition, but nouns, pronouns, verbs should be capitalized. Of course, if it's a proper noun, regardless of what it is, it should be capitalized. And but in some institution or in some formatting, like if you do this in a an IMRAD format or in a journal, they also have some rules in terms of the capitalization of the title and the formatting of the title. But for the APA, that is our guideline. Okay, yes. So that's it. So those are some of the guidelines in formulating our research title. Now let's proceed. How? how are we going to know whether the title bears good characteristics, or in short, it's they're okay, looking into how the title is indeed a good title. How would we know if it's a good title? So let's take a look at the characteristics of a good research title. Okay, so characteristics of a good research title. Okay, so this is just quite few. No, so let's take a look here. How would we know if we have done a good research title? Okay, so number one, a title should give readers information about the contents of the research, and it's preferable to one that is vague or general. Okay, so first, give your title should give essential information about the contents. Hmm. Give essential information. Give essential information about the contents. And when I say essential information, it doesn't mean all information, because as what we've said, your title should be neutral. It should not direct the reader in knowing what the results of the study is. So just essential information to perk up the interest of your um of your reader. Okay. Number two. Oh, sorry. Okay. Number two. It should not be stuffy or dull. Okay, not stuffy or dull. Or what do you mean by stuffy? Stuffy means like you put a lot of information into your title where those information or those words are not actually needed in the title, so that becomes stuffy. Dull meaning like the phrases or the choice of words, or probably the arrangement of the idea in your title doesn't really make sense, and when you read it, you'll, aside from the fact that you'll be confused, you would also would not find it interesting. So we have to avoid that. Also, mm, a good title is a phrase rather than a complete sentence. Okay. So it's more of a phrase rather than a complete sentence. So that means it's not too long, but even though it's a phrase, it gives us the big picture of what you're really going to learn, or what you're really going to understand. Okay. And then here, okay. Also, aside from that, we also need to create a title that is straightforward. Okay, it should be straightforward, and it should not be, running around the bush or try to make your title complicated. And because it's a phrase, okay, our last guideline is that we don't use any punctuation. Okay, so no punctuations at the end of the title. Okay. Okay, so no punctuations at the end of the title. So that is one of the important elements that we have to, how to say this one, we have to understand. All right. So yes. So again, so these are the characteristics of essential uh characteristics of a good research title. So now that we have discussed our guidelines of formulating a good research title, as well as the characteristics of a good research title, let me just share some of research titles approved in various disciplines and programs. And let's take a look whether these actually fall within the characteristics that we have shared and the guidelines. So higher order thinking skills in reading of freshman in University of Northern Philippines academic year 2015 or 2016. So we have your active variables, higher order thinking skills, and then in reading, then we mentioned about the respondents, the location, and the time. And as you've noticed, there's no punctuation at the end, plus the words between the first and the last are capitalized also. So, level of acceptability of worksheets for film clippings by teachers of English, University of Antique. So, same as well. Level of acceptability, you did not disclose whether it's high or low. So, it's a neutral title. Letters within the title are capitalized. So, we have also your location and your year. Same goes with awareness on traffic rules and regulations of tricycle operators and Drivers Association, Barangay Culiat, Quezon City, calendar year 2015-2016. So awareness, health practices, level of acceptability. Now, this is just a I will share an interesting, not really a hack, but it's an interesting uh, discovery, okay, that you might find helpful. Okay, now usually class in your research title, you'll be able to see the independent and dependent variable. Okay, and kadalasan or in most cases, the first phrase or the first few words are your dependent variable. If you've noticed, higher order thinking skill. So this is the variable that you will measure. Level of acceptability of worksheets. That's also your dependent variable. Awareness on traffic rules and regulation. That's also your independent variable. Likewise with health practices and level of tracing guide. But for scientific and experimental research, usually the first phrase of the title is your independent. So example, effect of, let's say, banaba extract on the wound healing. So banaba extract, effect of. So the phrase that comes after of is usually your independent variable, which is the banaba extract. And on, the healing rate is your dependent variable. So that's actually a nice observation that I was able to find and probably might help you out. Okay, so I hope class this video has been helpful in creating or making your title. And once you have fully decided on the research topic that you have done, you can start drafting your title. Remember to use the guidelines and check whether it falls, whether the characteristics of a good title are present in what you have drafted. Okay. So again, class, this is your researcher teacher Ian, and I'm so glad that we had this discussion. Until next time, please check on background of the study because this is the next lesson that we are going to discuss. So thank you once again, and we'll see each other in the next video. Don't forget to hit subscribe, share the contents to all your classmates and friends, and spread the knowledge and love for research. Thus, thank you so much and have a great day.